You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Since 2009, HRN podcasts have been exploring the wide world of food, beverage, and agriculture. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. We've been making cheese in Wisconsin since before we were even a state, which may be one reason why we win so many awards for it. It's what happens when a whole state dreams in cheese. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
We talk about food, we talk about music, with musical dudes, finger on the pulse, snacky tunes.
Hi everyone, welcome to Snacky Tunes. I'm your host, Darren Bresnitz, currently sitting in a hotel room in Burbank. Unfortunately, my family and I lost our house to the Eaton fire, and the interview today with Bar Etoile was recorded on Tuesday of this week, and Travis also lost everything in the Palisades fire. I don't have much words. I wanted to put out an episode because I needed something normal. We needed something normal, but we are devastated here in Los Angeles. The community outreach has been incredible, and we have a long road in front of us. World Central Kitchen is taking donations, and if you want to help feed the community, that's a great place to start. I know that we lost a lot of restaurants, and in the weeks coming, we'll have more information and be able to get more support, and I'm going to plan on doing some more conversations. But we wanted to just put out the episode we had planned for the start of the year with Julian and Jill and Travis at Bar Etoile and celebrating their opening and their success. And then we have Metal Bubble Trio, super excited to sit down and chat about their album Cucumber, which is coming out. I love all of you. I love our community. Altadena forever. And please enjoy the episode.
Darkness
my dreams. The choir is still singing. And I wake up and I'm in a grocery store. But then I see an orchid, an alien miracle among the green beans and the cereal. And at the center, a hole shaped like Michigan, shaped like me.
Jill, Julian, Travis, Happy New Year. Welcome to Snacky Tunes. I know we were talking right before we went on, but last meal 2024, first interview of 2025, and I couldn't be in better company. Thanks for taking the time to sit down for the show.
We're happy to be here.
Thanks for having us.
You've only been open a few months. I'll always remember it because it was game one of the World Series, and I was screaming like a madman on the porch while you guys were doing your first Friends and Family. But only being open a few months, you've been on so many lists, so many accolades. Best dish for Travis, your Caesar steak tartare. How does it feel?
It's exciting to come out and, present something like this to Los Angeles and the world and, have such an audience. I'm pretty honored by it and, very fortunate and lucky to have this.
Yeah, and, it feels good is the easiest way to describe it. There's so much stuff we're working on every day and to improve and to try and strive to the next step and the next level. But overall, everything just feels good. It feels the exact way to me, from the food to the front, to the wine, to the cocktails, the exact way like I envisioned this restaurant to be.
And for me, it's my first restaurant experience, and it feels just much more natural and comfortable than I expected this early on. And I think that's a function of Julian and me working on this for so long and also finding the right partner in Travis.
Yeah, to be open these days is amazing on its own, but to be relatively new and to have such a neighborhood feel already and to have people saying such beautiful things about it is really awesome. Travis, we've had you on the show a few times before, and so if anyone wants to get a little bit more of your background, they're up in the archives. Julian and Jill, I'd love to hear a little bit more how you got into the industry. I know you were both in the film entertainment industry before. And Julian, I think we crossed paths early at the Cannibal back in the New York days.
Yeah,
but
by the beginning of my life in restaurants.
An all-time legendary New York staple. But what pulled you out of the agency entertainment world and into the food world?
I didn't make it very far in the agency.
So that helped, right?
I have clients. I was an assistant, but it was something I always wanted to do with my life. My dad was an agent and was an agent for 45 years, and I would just watch his life and just fell in love with it. But it just didn't turn out for me. I didn't find the calling or the connection to with the material or being good material. I didn't feel like it was something I could be successful at. And I found that, in college, we were cooking dinner parties for a lot of friends.
Sure.
As I feel like a lot of people in this industry start that sort of like, let me cook for all these people. This brings me a lot of joy, service. And you start to kind of figure out maybe this is a career. And I figured if I kept on the current path of working in the entertainment industry and kind of rising up the ranks there, I would want to be involved in restaurants in some way at some point in my life, but I would never take the leap. And I figured I was young enough at 22 years old at that point to screw it all and try something new. So I moved to New York, then went to culinary school, and started working in kitchens then.
That's amazing.
Always knowing I wanted to be in the front of house. I felt that I knew I wanted to be around people and different people every night. And so I just figured if I could learn the kitchen language and how to cook, that it would only help me out in terms of conversing with chefs and owners and
smart
peers.
It's really smart. Jill, your entry into the food world was through wine. How did you get involved with wine, and what was the wine scene like in LA in the mid-aughts?
So I joke that the film industry drove me to drink.
Sure. Yeah. Joke? I think you could just say.
It's not really a joke. I mean, I worked in film for about 10 years.
Wow.
From, a development assistant, working for, the producer of The Sixth Sense and Rushmore, to ultimately being a not so successful independent producer, trying to get my own things made. And at the sort of end of that cycle, I had become really immersed in wine as a hobby. And I'm an obsessive, and sort of it took over all of my free time and quite accidentally turned into a vocation. I started a website, which was a blog sort of at the beginning of the blogosphere, and I figured out a way to monetize it so I could defray the cost of my hobby, and it just turned into a business, which turned into a wine shop. So I guess the best way to describe things sort of in the mid to late aughts in LA is there was a focus on sort of boutique wine. That word was thrown around, or small production, but there was not so much awareness of natural wine. And my entree into wine was a bottle of Jean Foillard Morgon. And that was a 2002 bottle that I bought in Paris. And it really sort of a light bulb lit up over my head when I drank that bottle. And it took me many years to understand why I related to that wine. And by the time I opened up the brick and mortar version of my little website, Domain LA, in 2009, I had learned why that wine was special and what natural wine was, and opened the wine store with that focus, but without so much consumer awareness of that category at all. So it was a little bit of an uphill battle trying to get people to really embrace this new type of wine as, something other than just small production or boutique. It was really a category that was at the very beginning of its development at that time.
It's amazing. I would say I think it was a 2009 Morgon that Travis and I bonded over early in our wine drinking days.
Yeah, La Pierre. Yeah. That still stands out in my mind as a pinnacle.
Next time you're at the restaurant, I got Travis. I tracked down a bottle of that for when we opened the restaurant. Gave it to Travis on opening night. So I have an 09 La Pierre Morgon for you guys.
Oh, fantastic. Travis, you failed to mention that you had a bottle of that, but that's fine.
I was trying to surprise you.
So,
my bad, guys.
Domain, the wine shop, has become, I would say, one of the most respected wine shops in the city of LA, if not the country. So much so that, Julian, I know that you had heard about it or knew about it by the time you moved back to LA to Cannibal. What drew you into getting into the wine world and out of the restaurant world for a bit?
The weirdness of beer. No, nobody wanted to keep drinking weird fermented wild beers with me. As you know, my wife, I think, was going to leave me at that point if I asked her to go to another brewery.
Yeah, those sour times were tough times.
Sour beers.
Yeah.
I moved back to LA, and I was living at my brother's house, who lives like on Melrose in Fairfax. And I said I needed to go get a bottle of wine. Where should I go? And without hesitation, he said, "You got to go to Domaine LA." And I'd kind of had some friends in New York who were getting into natural wine, and I don't think I ever knew that was the name or the classification. I just was drinking these wines that I thought were interesting and really compelling. And so I just started shopping at Domaine, and the people that were there at the time, still think of like as an all-star team of Courtney and Emily there. And I learned so much from them and just started chatting with Jill. And it wasn't until I think maybe like 8-9 months in that we were all talking one day and realized that we lived on the same street, and, about a block away from each other. And that kind of cemented the friendship from there. And so I was a customer for about a year or two before I actually came on board.
I think that's a good length of being a customer before you can be like, I want to work here.
Yeah, no, I knew what I was getting myself into. And when the time came for me to hit pause on my restaurant journey just to get some rest and try and maybe have an attempt at being a normal person with normal hours, a friend of ours said, you should go work for Jill, and she's hiring. And so that was the moment I was like, I know these people. I like these people. These are people I want to be around and I want to learn from. And I was at the Process Native was my first wine list I had done.
Shout out to Naisha.
And I wanted to keep learning that because, if people weren't going to drink beer with me, they were definitely drinking wine. So like, I can learn more about this and start that journey too, because if you're getting paid to learn, then that's a pretty good situation in my book.
I think so too.
I have to give credit to two of my employees at the time who, when I was looking for staff additions, told me very, very firmly, Julian's looking for a job, or Julian's ending his job at, and you would be stupid not to try and get him to join us. And as with most of my best employees, it was somebody else's idea other than mine. I've been my strongest suit. So.
Yeah.
All right, I want to take a quick little break, and then when I come back, I want to talk about your shared love for Paris and France at large, the road to opening, and some of the music that people can expect to hear on a night. We have a song from the archives here on Snacky Tunes on HRN.
If anybody asks me, y'all, saying who I am, tell them I'm a child of God. Tell them I'm a child of God. If anybody asks me, y'all, saying who I am, tell them I'm a child of God. Tell them I'm a child of God. Yeah. They ask me who I am like they don't know. I take them on a ride like a rodeo. I live my life so clear, man, that's for sure. Just know that I'm filled with the Holy Ghost. The world drives me insane. I don't live for the fame. I'm trying to live in it plain. Yeah, that's for sure. I live for the gang, staying true to the game. Though it's hard to maintain, yeah, I call that growth. These are my bars. I go home and come hard. The vibe's strong with the squad. The life seems odd. This is not a facade. This is who we are. Give praise to y'all, cause I'm a child of God. If anybody asks me, y'all, saying who I am, tell them I'm a child of God. Tell them I'm a child of God. If anybody asks me, y'all, saying who I am, God, tell them I'm a child of God. Tell them I'm a child of God. They wanna know who I'm supposed to be. They wanna know what it's supposed to be when they see a black man in the streets with two sons on his side. I tell them that I'm alive. I tell them I'm a child of God. I got my hand on the mic in one way. They tell me to stop. I can't cause I pray. I got that everlasting kind of bunny, fantastic, elastic, child of God action. If anybody asks me who I am, yeah, I tell them I'm a child of God. Tell them I'm a child of God. Yeah. If anybody asks me, y'all saying who I am, tell them I'm a child of God. Tell them I'm a child of God. We gonna do it like this. Tell them you ain't my daddy. My daddy. Yeah. Trying to tell me who I can and who I can't be. You ain't my daddy. My daddy. Trying to tell me who I can and who I can't be. Yeah, you ain't my daddy. My daddy. Who are you? Trying to tell me who I can and who I can't be. You ain't my daddy. My daddy. Trying to tell me who I can and who I can't be. If anybody asks you who I am, sing it. Say who I am. Who I am. If anybody asks you who I am, tell them I'm a child of. Tell them I'm a child of. Tell them I'm a child of. Tell them I'm a child, y'all, yeah. Tell them I'm a child. Tell them I'm a child. Tell them I'm a child of God.
Hello and welcome back to Snacky Tunes. I'm here with Jill and Julian Travis of Bar Etoile, and I've been lucky enough to be in Paris at the same time as Travis, and I know that you three have journeyed there together, but it seems to be the city and the France at large pretty influential on the wine you serve and the design, the aesthetic, the approach to it. What does that city or country at large mean to each of you, and why is that your main source of inspiration for the restaurant?
I mean, for me on the food side, going there when I went, I had Vivant, I had Septime, Chateaubriand, and a lot of food in these caves. It was a pretty incredible experience. I was like, I can have this like really great high-end food, and it's a bunch of small plates and some medium plates. And where LA was so like fine dining, like the star in the menu was, a steak for $4 or like
sure
fish for $4. And that was, it was so much more exciting when I got to Paris and, just seeing what these small places were doing. And it had a really big influence on me, and, especially where my cooking went, and you didn't see a lot of people in Los Angeles doing that. And, I figured, why can't I do this? And so once I saw that, I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do. Seeing people cook in these minimalist kitchens, all over the city. There's people cooking on induction burners, no hoods.
Yeah.
And, it was so impressive. And you don't see that really anywhere in the U.S. at all. So, and they're still following the same principles that I had. It's like everything's from like very fresh from farms and coming in and just putting out this high caliber food. I hadn't seen anything like it. So it had a profound effect on the way that I was cooking.
For me, I think I had a similar experience, but from the wine perspective. In the time that I started that website and started really thinking about wine, Los Angeles was the best place for seasonal produce, for farmers markets, for farm-to-table food experiences. But there was never the same level of attention to the farming practices of the wines that were being served. And so when I went to France, and that perspective was really the focus of what wines were being poured in these venues that Travis is talking about, suddenly I was experiencing food and wine that matched each other, that were made with that same ethos. And for me, that was a really moving experience to have things, cohere and gel in that way.
Amazing. So let me go back a little bit to right before the restaurant. So Julian, you're working at Domain. Domain is, I don't know the ins and outs of the business of it, but it's a business model that that's as stable as any business can be at any point of the F&B world. What made you want to do a restaurant? Listen, let's just, for the premise of this question, let's just assume that everything's top notch. Why get into the restaurant world? Like, what made you want to take that leap of saying, okay, well, we know the wine is going to be shelf stable. Why am I getting into fresh produce, fresh fish, things that can go bad, reservations, all that type of stuff? What pushed you into that world?
I think for me, I knew it was some of the world I never wanted to leave. For
sure.
My break kind of came at a point where I remember somebody saying, you got to run this restaurant like it's yours and you own it. I was like, okay, but I don't own it. And I'm being paid a wage that in any other industry would be laughable. And margins are tight and people in this industry do not get paid what they're worth, which we all know. That's not a surprise. But I was like, I'm not going to do this until I can come back and I can own it. If I'm going to work this hard, I'm going to work this hard for myself. So I never really wanted to step away from it all. But what I realized, and I think while working at Domain, was what was missing was sort of the connection and the in the moment of having wine. And because, when we're selling a bottle to someone at the store, they're kind of buying to either stock the coffers or like they're buying, or they're like, hey, I'm going to a friend's house tonight and we're going to have fish. What's going to go well with that? And so you kind of send them out the door hoping that what you've made, you don't really get the gratification or the feedback. And so to be able to have a venue that we can kind of converse with guests and be able to pair that food and wine the same way that Jill was talking about with how she connected in Paris, was super exciting to me to come back to. And that was the experience I felt like I was really, really missing, was the ability to converse with a guest in the moment instead of waiting for them to come back in and be like, hey, how'd that work for you? How did you like that? You know what I mean? You build more of a relationship with a guest that way.
I got it. Jill, what about you?
For me, it is about having that more complete experience, but having had the shop for 15 plus years now, even early on, when I was approached about possible new locations for a second domain, first of all, natural wine is not so scalable. There, get 6 or 12 bottles of something, and suddenly I'm supposed to replicate that at another venue, and but for what purpose? To do the same thing and to have some amount of the same difficulty staffing and for pretty low margins. And retail is sort of a volume game, and volume doesn't really interest me. What interests me is the experience that I have with the guests, which is what you have at a restaurant, but you have an even more intimate experience with the guest at a restaurant. And having never done this before, I guess, ignorance is bliss. I didn't really know what I was and in a way.
Julian, you didn't tip her off? You didn't be like, hey, heads up?
No, I needed her.
I heard how hard it was.
I needed her.
From everybody, but really the experience working with guests at a restaurant is so far, in the limited time we've been open, has been so gratifying and so it just is that much more complete. And I've had great customers and clients for the last 15 years at the store and have gotten to know a lot of them very well over the years. But the intensity of that relationship is even more significant in a restaurant space. And I wanted to be doing something where I would be learning, continuing to grow and to learn, and opening a second location of the store wasn't going to provide that.
Of course. So how quickly did you know that you wanted to extend your passion for French wine into French food, and when did you start looking for chefs and hook up with Travis?
Well, I started looking for spaces for a wine bar probably like in 2011 ish. I looked at.
It's been a journey, let's say.
I talked with Grand Central Market before they did the revamp there about space. I literally looked at every existing or non-existent space on Larchmont Boulevard over the last decade. And Julian and I think about how far into a year into working with me?
2 years. It was almost in pandemic.
It was pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
2019-ish, maybe 2018, we started talking about the goal that we each had separately of doing this next thing, and realized that these goals aligned and that we would maybe make a good team.
Yeah, I still don't remember the exact details. I do remember Jill kind of saying, "I'm going to go look at this space on Larchmont. You want to come with?" I was like, "Okay, yeah, let's do this." And then the next space came up. In the space, we were sort of like, "This won't work," and sort of these ideas of partnership started to form, and we just kept moving along. We already knew we worked well together. I was managing domain for Jill at the time, and so we already knew that we were compatible as work people,
which is big.
Which is big, yeah. We learned that about each other early on, but whether or not the idea was let's do a wine bar, let's go after it. I think we just sort of organically, we just sort of fell into this rhythm and started looking for spaces together. And then for Travis, it wasn't until we saw the space we're in 2021 was the first time we saw what is now Bar Etoile, and then there was. When we knew that we should start looking for a chef and construction was starting to wind down, one name from people that we trust quite a lot kept coming up, and it was Travis's. And these people spoke really highly of him. Both of us had had his cooking separately at Voodoo. So we knew that he was cooking the right type of stuff, and he had just left Voodoo then and knew he was available. So I reached out over Instagram and I said, "Hey, you and I don't know each other. We've never met, but people I trust really like you and know the people that you know. We should have a conversation." And that started the courting period, as I like to call it.
Yes.
I love it. Travis, you and I have talked a lot about your approach to the food here and how it's inspired by French cuisine, but it's not just a down the middle. You could walk into any bistro in Paris, anywhere, and get it. What takes did you want to bring to your interpretation of this beloved cuisine?
Yeah, for me, the most important product and the parallel to the French cuisine that inspires me is using fresh market products. And, I buy almost everything from the farmers markets. I'm at farmers markets 3 times a week. That's a similarity. We have wildly different products. Or seasons give us different things. California is wildly abundant, so I think I get a little bit more access to produce than someone in France. But it's that's the most important thing to me is I want high quality product that's being produced by these farmers that are they do a lot of work. It's not like making organic, great produce is very difficult. And so you get these things that really shine, that are really wonderful, that you can't get in other parts of the world. And so I consider myself lucky to even touch some of this stuff. But I've said it before, it makes it really easy is that I don't have to do much to it. So it's just kind of if you can put in the effort to find the good stuff, you can just let it do its thing and not doctor it too much and end up with a really great dish. And it's kind of my ethos in cooking.
I love it. I've been lucky enough to be there a couple times at night and sink into the booths and enjoy the warm lighting. I love that you worked with Lovers Unite for the design of the spot. And I'd love, if you could share Friday, Saturday night, even a Tuesday night vibe of someone walking in, what's on the stereo, what can people expect, especially people who haven't been lucky enough to be there in the first few months?
I think that, well, notoriously, I am terrible at music selection. So it's I'm learning a lot as we go through the restaurant, because I would just listen to like La Vie en Rose or
Sure. Time and place. Time and place.
But my time always seems to be just on repeat. But we have a lot of music people involved with the restaurant. We asked them to create some playlists, and I think the ones that have been the most successful, the ones that we keep coming back to, have a really mix of some sort of more classical French stuff, but also has some old hits and some deeper cuts, and then stuff that you'll hear on the radio currently. So there's a grand mix of everything, but music plays not the main role of the space, but a sort of a background role. It's there, it's present. You can kind of think, oh, I know this song. You can hear it a little bit, but the focus for us is on the person that's across from you, and the warmth and the ambiance of the room comes from diners. It comes from people, of conversation, more than it is trying to shout over the table next to you to hear the person across from you. And that's been one of the pieces of feedback that I've really enjoyed, is people being able to hear each other talk and to be present in their moment.
Amazing. I know it's tough to look towards the future, especially since it's January and you're probably just excited to be opening the doors on a regular basis. But what do you have coming up? What can people expect? Any special collabs coming up, or any dream dinners that three of you want to throw?
Well, I'll toss it over to Travis after I say this, but one of the things that really excited us about working with Travis, excited me about working with Travis, was the ability and want to collab with other people. So we've really let him run with reaching out to the people that he respects and likes to open our kitchen to other people. So.
Yeah, I've been talking to a lot of people about collaborations, a lot of French chefs that want to come over. The great thing about cooking at early June in Paris is there's this community of chefs that do pop-ups, and we all can cook on induction burners, and we can all cook in regular kitchens too. And we've all become friends. We travel to each other's cities, try each other's food. So
beautiful.
You can expect a lot of that.
Coming up on menu changes, because seasonal changes too, and sort of getting excited about seeing a whole new bunch of fresh new dishes from Travis and his interpretation of the market as well.
Amazing. And I assume some wine dinners, different producers, things like that.
We want to get there. We have this, as you've seen in the restaurant, we have this beautiful large bar in the center of the room.
It's gorgeous, yeah.
And is a really prominent design feature that Lovers helped us build out, kind of our nod to the origins of this wanting to be a wine bar more than a full-scale restaurant. But we have this, we want to kind of do this winemaker in the round, where the winemaker is in the bar instead of, one long table, and the winemaker sort of gets pushed to the end, and you don't get to converse with that person. And so we want to be able to have people, winemakers, people and wineries in where everybody gets to interact with that guest.
I love it. Well, listen, congratulations. I can't wait to return. If people want to follow along, see the menu changes, see what you're pouring, make reservations, anything like that, where can they go? How can they get more info?
We are on Resi.
Shout out.
For reservations. And we're at the tail end of building out our website, baretoile.com.
And we're on Instagram.
We are on Instagram.
Amazing. Well, listen, congratulations to the three of you. I had a fantastic meal on the early side with my full family, and was surrounded by other families, and it was so great to see just a beautiful neighborhood spot open up. So congrats to you. Thank you for making the time. We have another song from the archives, and then we have a live performance from Andrew of Metal Bubble Trio right here on Snacky Tunes on HRN.
place, and I'm distressed. I got something growing out my neck. It's the other head. The skin upraised, it's cracked and dry, and it's not so perfect, and it's not so perfect on the other side. When I look at you, it's like you're staring back at me. When you find yourself, it seems to happen naturally. Always standing in the jet cashing line. I think I'm waiting too long. Said I'm waiting too long. I said I'm waiting too long. Then he said that I'm always by your side, and that I'm not that perfect, and I'm not that perfect, and I'm not that perfect. When I look at you, it's like you're staring back at me. When you find yourself, it seems to happen naturally. When I look at you, always waiting, it's like you're staring back at me. When you find yourself staring into the wondering eyes of the other head. When you think to yourself, do you think of yourself? When you think to yourself, do you think of yourself? When you think to yourself, waiting, I'm watching. Do you think of yourself? I can see from behind. When you think to yourself, look at me, don't look at them. Do you think of yourself? Deeper inside. When you think to yourself, think of pontificate. Do you think of yourself? This purple, this grandeur. When you think to yourself, eyeballs are suffering. Do you think of yourself? Always rippling. Do you think of yourself? When you think to yourself, do you think yourself? Do you think of yourself? When you think to yourself, think yourself. Think yourself. Do you think of yourself? Think yourself. When you think to yourself, think yourself. Think yourself. Do you think of yourself? Think yourself. Think yourself. When you think to yourself, do you think of yourself? Do you think of yourself? When you think to yourself, do you think yourself? Do you think of yourself? Do you think yourself? When you think to yourself, well, probably not.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. There's a reason when you think of Wisconsin, you think cheese. Cheese is a huge part of Wisconsin's history and future. In Wisconsin, the state of cheese, the tradition of cheese-making excellence began 180 years ago, before Wisconsin was recognized as a state. Immigrants traveled to settle in this lush green hills of Wisconsin, bringing their cheese-making traditions with them. These storied skills, combined with the freshest milk available, created a cheese-making culture that is uniquely Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 1,200 cheesemakers, many of whom are third and fourth generation, continue to pass on old world traditions while adopting modern innovations in cheese-making craftsmanship. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
Andrew, happy New Year. So great to meet you. Thank you for sitting down for the show. And we're going to get to it in a little bit, but congrats on the album coming out this Friday.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been a long time brewing. It's exciting to share music again. It's been a while.
Yeah. I love when a project gestates and then you're like, it's ready for me to work on, and then it's ready for me to go out in the world. And it's the creative process is such a different thing for each person. How would you describe yours? And was there a different approach for this album than maybe some of the other projects in the past?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think for me, my creative process revolves around curiosity. What perks my ears up, what seems fun, what makes me kind of question, like go, like that's interesting. I wonder how they got that sound, or I wonder if I could do something like this, or if I have an idea of what I want the end product to be, I find that it ends up pretty boring and stiff and stupid. And when it's like chasing something or wondering about something and let it kind of breathe and develop into its own thing, that's when I tend to like it. I can feel like less of my own fingerprints or like annoying tendencies on it. It just kind of is its own thing. Whereas if I'm trying to force it into a box, I'm just like, that sounds like me and I hate it. So I wanted to just kind of like get as far from me as it can.
No, of course. When you are making songs, is the ultimate goal for you to be behind it and not be completely imprinted on it? Or do you want it to like represent who you really are?
It's a good question. I think I want it to just represent like an idea or some kind of kernel of purity or truth or beauty or frustration or pain or whatever it is that a song can be. I don't even really know, but if I'm getting out of the way, I think that's probably a better thing. If I'm kind of a vessel or a conduit, even though that's pretty, highfalutin, woo-woo, whatever. But the stuff that I like best is the stuff where I'm like, I think that came from maybe somewhere else, just maybe my subconscious or something. But like, it doesn't feel like a journal entry or me venting having an extra grind or whatever. I don't know.
No, I think some of the stuff that I like when I'm writing is I come back and I go, did I write this? I mean, I like it, but was this me who actually did this? Because you've pushed yourself forward into creating something that you can part with and share with the world.
Sure. Do you find that when you revisit past work, you don't recognize the voice or something? Like, is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, just being like, I got out of my own way and I let the piece, and I think that's what you're feeling as well, is you let the piece be the piece and not being like, I need to have this emotion in here because I have this personal thing that I'm trying to say. It's like, let's let the final song or the final piece be what it needs to be the best thing it can be.
Yeah, that's the hope. Absolutely, for sure.
So I want to go back to when you're growing up, because your parents were pretty supportive with your musical journey. And I've always wondered, for people who are multi-instrumentalists like you, how easy is it to learn other instruments? Like, do you start with the piano and then you get to a trumpet? You're like, all right, trumpet's close to the tuba, because you play a ton of different instruments. How did you start and how did you grow?
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it. Like, once you kind of get the internal logic of the way something works, or intervals between notes, or whatever it is that an instrument just, that distinguishes it from one to the next. I don't play I don't play violin. That to me feels like a foreign language or something. And my cellist that I play with in MBT, he can do a lot of things too, probably better than I can. And it's really intimidating. And then, to try, like, I had to play his cello the other day for something, and just to get a sound check on it, and it's real hard,
Yeah.
So, but a lot of things, like, sure, like if you can play a piano, then you can play a synthesizer, more or less. There's intricacies of filters and cutoffs and whatever, but like the notes are laid out the same, and a lot of things can translate pretty easily. And I think for me, it maybe became like an irritating point of pride, like when I was in college or high school, to be like, well, I can learn that. I'll bet I can learn that. And so for me now, to be a multi-instrumentalist, quote unquote, I'm a little bit like, man, I kind of wish I had just like, I don't know, maybe read more books or done something else with my, got really good at one instrument. That'd probably be better.
Yeah, just like going super deep on the piano or the guitar or something like that. All right, I want to get into a song. The first song I think you're going to play for us is Universal Themes. What's the story behind it? What do you love about it? Yeah,
Universal Themes. I was walking my dog and I kind of had the main melody, and it took a little bit of time to figure out what it was about. In the same way that Cucumber, the title track, like I knew that's what the album was called before I knew anything about it or why. And so I just had the sense that like I need to be like steering in this direction. And with Universal Themes, I was going through a breakup, and just kind of realized that, like once the egg is broken, you can't put the yolk back into it. You can't reseal it. It's very, Humpty centric in that way, where it's like, it's destroyed. It is not coming back. And I need to do something with this kind of chaos that has spilled out, onto my countertop here, basically. So the song kind of became about making a cake. The single artwork became a cake that I decorated with my friend Tommy, and we took pictures of it. And
I love that.
It's just, it became very cake centric in a way.
I love it.
But yeah, you can, basically finding some order out of the garbage that you're feeling.
Right. Not just focusing on the disorder in front of you. All right, here we go. Universal Themes live on Snacky Tunes here on HRN.
Start to begin and then stop at the end. Just let go of control. It is a universal theme. Blow it all up and then blame someone else. It's all wrong. Sing along. It is a universal theme. Well, you could write a book, or you could write an essay. You could have a teacher, or you could learn the hard way. But in the end, it hits you like a sound wave. Love is the only constant thing, baby. Make a mistake, make a pie, make a cake, mess it up, it's okay. We're gonna eat it anyway. It's an egg that we cracked and we can't put it back. It's a joke, but it tracks. It's just a universal thing. Well, you could get a pen and tear out the back page. You could write a letter, you could fix it that way. But in the end, it hits you like a sound wave. Love is the only perfect thing, baby. So let's find it and let's refine it, and then break it back down into its smallest form. Put in water, drink it to live longer. If that's not the point, what are we writing for? So let's find it and let's refine it, and then break it back down into its smallest form. Put in water, drink it to live longer. If that's not the point, what are we fighting for? Soap and water, tile and green. The universe is shower steam. Zip my coat and move my feet. The universe is down the street. Further up and through the clouds. The universe is soft and loud. Out of place and in between. The universe is universal. Applesauce and apricots, and all the dogs we've loved and lost. Recipes we thought we'd make. The universe as we created. Luminaries, lemon trees. The universe is all we see. All our stuff and memories. The universe was you and me.
Welcome back to Snacky Tunes. We are here with Andrew Dost of Metal Bubble Trio, and you were just talking about cake before we left. The name of the album's Cucumber.
Yeah.
I gotta imagine you're a big fan of food and cooking. Do you get in the kitchen?
I really am. Yeah. I'm in the kitchen every day. All I think about is if I'm traveling, where my meal is going to be. If I'm home, what it's going to be. You know, there's a wonderful farmer's market where I live, and there's just always something interesting to make a meal around. Always people who are sharing stuff. It's just a great area for food. I'm very lucky to live in Michigan.
Tell the people where you live, not your address, but
I mostly live in Traverse City, Michigan, up north, but I split time between here and Detroit. So I'm in Detroit a fair bit too.
What's the Detroit food scene like these days?
Really blossoming and good. Like stuff opening up all the time. Great network of chefs, great, interesting cuisines of, all kinds of good stuff. It's really special.
So when you're on the road, do you have a list of restaurants that you want to hit, old spots that you're returning to, or are you always trying to find somewhere new to eat?
A little of both. It depends. Like if it's a meal that I really, I get kind of stuck on some things, like if there's a dish, like are you based in Brooklyn?
In LA, but I lived in Brooklyn for 10 years.
Was Winsun there when you were there?
No, but I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
Okay. Like I love Winsun. I got to go to New York in a couple days, and I'm going to get this eggplant dish from Winsun because it is so good. I don't want to branch out. I don't want to branch out to a different restaurant or menu choice. I mean, I'll get more, but like, I got to get that.
Yeah. I mean, I get that when I go back to New York, it's like, all right, well, I have to force myself to eat at one new spot. Cause if not, then I'm like, I'm just going to go get the things that I love every time.
Yeah. Especially if you don't live somewhere and you go back to it, like you gotta go to the hits.
Got to go to the hits. So why name the album Cucumber? Why all the food themes integrated into the music you're making now?
Well, the name Cucumber came to me before. Like I knew that was what the album was called. I knew what the song was called, and was just kind of not sure why. I didn't know what to do with that. I ended up having a friend help me write some of the lyrics. So Chris and I kind of went back and forth and kind of started crafting this story and about, I knew what kind of themes I wanted to draw into it, but ultimately still didn't know why it was Cucumber. I had all the rest of the song. My mom was chopping cucumbers one day before dinner and was cutting the skins off. And I said, like that's where all the nutrients, my mom and I are both really, we're getting fit together,
Love it.
And so we're pretty conscious of nutrients and calories and whatever. And so I said, like a lot of the good nutrients are in the skin, you should leave those on there. We want that. And she said, well, my mom always cut the skins off. So that's just how I do it. And I realized like, oh, that's it. It's cute. It's about like, in a larger sense, it's about like trying to feel close to someone that has left by doing the things they do. And like, for me, that's a lot of food. That's a lot of like a dish that I used to make with a partner or something, my grandma's recipe for whatever, or now the way my mom cooks certain things is the way I do it just because it's what I am used to, even if it is maybe not technically the way we ought to do it. So I do leave the skins on my cucumber, but probably I won't someday because I'm guessing like I'll really miss my mom and I'll want to connect to her by making a salad and knowing that that's how she did it. In the same way that she now feels close to her mom by repeating this motion. And so for me, the whole album kind of became about these pieces of information and techniques and whatever else that get lost to time when people leave us for whatever reason, and the ways that we connect to them and feel close to them. For me, it's in the kitchen a lot. And for my mom, it is too, with her mom. And, just like pieces of information that are lost, inside jokes. What was that place we used to go to? What was that dish at Winton? I can't remember. And you can't ask somebody if they're gone. And that's kind of what the album is about as a whole for me.
I love that. I mean, food and music, passing those down and sharing that. I mean, that's where the memories are. I remember where I was when I ate this dish. I remember who I was with when I heard that song. And it's great that you're able to fold those thoughts into the new album, and that you can pass on to other people, or the songs will be their own thing and they'll share it with other people and become part of their traditions.
I hope people connect to it in some way. Like I typically tend to listen to music when I'm cooking, and that's kind of part of the whole experience. Cooking, eating, there's always music around. It's colorful. It's a sensory experience. It's pleasure and joy, and community. And I was shucking oysters last summer, and I cut my finger really badly. So it could be pain too. It's like there's a little bit of everything.
Do you have a set cooking playlist, or is it just whatever you're into at the moment?
Right now, it's been the Beach Boys Christmas stuff, just because
Perfect.
It's maybe irritating to some people. I know the Beach Boys kind of aren't for everybody, especially in their surf days, but that's what it's been. Typically, I love jazz, like, Lonnie Liston Smith, Sarah Sanders, Bill Evans. I don't know. I like, jazz and cooking feel like they are a natural fit.
I'm right there with you. All right, let's hear the next song. I believe it's Love, Please Don't Be Long. What's the story behind this one?
Literally, again, about making food. Love, please don't be long. I miss everything about you when you're gone. I don't make croissants. It just kind of came at a point in a relationship where things were feeling pretty easy. We're no longer together, but it was just kind of one of those, like, this is a sweet little moment. I'm going to get this one on tape. So that was kind of what inspired that, is just like the easy, mundane moments of life with someone. I
love it, man. Those are the best relationship moments. Just like, this is great. This is easy. All right, here we go. Love, Please Don't Be Long, here on Snacky Tunes on HRN.
1, 2, 3. Please don't be long. I miss everything about you when you're gone. I don't make croissants. I refill your glass of water. You're an orchid in the grocery store, 3-pointer from the corner, or back before too long. In every timeline that we're on, it's you and me too. Dark. It's like we found a 4-leaf clover in the lawn, not trampled down. 'Cause we noticed for a moment, but it's gone before you know it. On 100 billion planets so far, only one we know that life grows on. Out in the dark, beneath the canopy of stars, some tiny seed or spark.
Welcome back to Snacky Tunes. So the new album comes out on Friday, and I gotta imagine it's pretty exciting. Do anything to celebrate? What are your plans to play out live? How are you going to share this with the world in your own way?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. One of the things I really like making is ice cream. And so I want...
Really?
Yeah, I love making ice cream. So I'm going to have a little ice cream social, and
I love that.
the band will be there. There will be cucumber themed artwork, and I'm going to make some cucumber. This is the plan as of now anyway, is for a cucumber mint honey ice cream.
Love it.
Make custom cups for it, maybe have some spoons laser engraved. I don't know. I'm going to, whatever weird stuff I can cook up and find in time, I'm going to do. The piece de resistance is going to be ice cream truck versions of all the songs. So little ice cream cart, ice cream social, cucumber release. Be there, be square.
What are the details on that?
January 17th. It will be streaming everywhere, and Third Man Records in Detroit is pressing some vinyl up for me right now, so that will be available just through my website. Mostly I'm thinking about the ice cream. That's generally the focus. Is like, okay, how can I parlay this into a way to eat food with my friends?
I mean, I love cucumber, like sorbet, popsicles, ice cream.
Yeah.
It's got that extra sweetness that you don't always realize when you're eating it. Especially with melon and mint, that's a perfect combo.
Yeah, melon, that's it. Maybe it's a cucumber melon ice cream. I just had some great melon ice cream in Brooklyn. Was it at Ops or Leo's? Maybe.
Anyway,
I think it was Leo's. Incredible melon ice cream.
Yeah, melon had a good year this year across the board. It really did. So you have the ice cream social. You have the album coming out. When the album comes out, do you look at comments or do you turn off all the comments and just go, I did it. It's out in the world. I made my piece to say it and people can interpret it how they want and they love it? Or do you go through and be like, what do you think about it? How do you feel about the album?
Oh man, I can't, I internalize stuff too much. So I try to not see it. I hope that people talk about this album at all. Like if anyone even registers that it is a thing, then that's a victory, I guess, to some degree. But my first band got a 2.7 on Pitchfork.
Ooh,
and
wow.
It shredded my confidence so much. And this is before my band Fun that like kind of got so big that we didn't care about reviews anyway.
Sure.
But with that first review from my first band, I think we were kind of like, man, that stings. And it impacts the process to some degree where you start to think like, how will something be received as opposed to what am I trying to create? So I guess in a nutshell, to answer the question, I try to avoid stuff. But like if somebody like DMs you on Instagram and is like, hey, you suck, you should stop. You kind of can't help but feel a little bad, which has happened before where it's like, hey, your new music is trash, buddy. Give it up.
People who go out of their way to do that it's a whole way of thinking that I don't understand.
Yeah.
It's like, just leave it alone.
Go do something else, man. But, I guess there is an impulse to want to lash out in all of us. So I guess I understand it.
Yeah. So I know it's called a trio, but you do bulk up and play with larger groups at times. What's the plan for a tour? What's the plan for live shows? Are you going to do anything? I mean, the ice cream social is the best thing I've heard. So I already know you're doing something special, but when you take this out on the road, what's the plan?
It's a 7-piece live.
Awesome.
Yeah. And sometimes 8. There's this lovely saxophone player that goes by the name of the Sax Squatch. He's awesome. So he joins us sometime. My goal is to be a fully jazz project or jam band or something. That's like Mark 3. Version 2.0 is going to be like metal, and then version 3 is going to be jazz. So there's a whole arc planned here, but there will always be a lot of people on stage. Maybe the jazz portion will be a true trio, but for now, it's just fun to have the gang we got going. Like I wouldn't want to not have any of them around. I like them all so much.
No, and I love that full sound. I love it. Like when you get a big group of musicians together who are interpreting your music in their way. It's fun to hear everybody's ideas and what they bring out for sure. Yeah. Are you going to try and make reservations for an 8 top when you go on the road?
That is so annoying. We have to split up. We have to split into 4. And there's always I always feel a little weird where I'm like, what defines who sits at what table? Like, is there, I don't know.
Out of a hat? You know,
Yeah, that's what we should do. Yeah.
Randomize it.
Like a little spinner or hat. Do you read reviews?
No,
or comments?
I mean, I don't think anyone has reviewed this show in a long time, but I mean, for some projects I've read it. But you go with the intent of being like, I'm going to make something that I want people to enjoy, and this is the story we're telling right now. And maybe people connect, maybe don't. It's a look. If you're going to read the good reviews, you got to read the bad reviews sometimes, and I don't want to live by that sides of the same coin. So, but also, I don't know. It's different now. I think people think that because you can get to someone, you can talk to them, that they need to share their opinion. And I'm just like, maybe don't share your opinion.
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, criticism's a whole, we could spend a whole another episode talking about the current state of criticism for art and restaurants and music and things like that. Cause I think it's completely shifted from when we were growing up and like what it really meant to review something.
Yeah. The barrier of entry is lower now. Like any jerk with a phone can review anything.
Yeah. It's just, it's like, okay, I guess you posted that because you could. So I don't know. I don't read it. I don't take much stock in it. If someone wants to say I really liked it, I'll be like, awesome. Thanks so much. Nice little confidence boost. But
Sure.
Well, listen.
Oh,
what were you saying? No.
Well, I dig the show, and also like in kind of like getting familiar with it and preparing, I listened to some stuff. I listened to the Elena episode because I love Elena in Montreal.
Oh, yeah.
And that's behind pizza and kale salad. So I listened to that episode. And it's just great. It's cool to hear like, oh, I know that place. I loved the food. And now I kind of have an idea of the personalities behind it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's the point of this. Oh, well, I appreciate it. All right. So the album's out Friday. If you want to check out the album, go to Ice Cream Social, which is also this Friday, or see tour dates, get some merch because you have some very cool merch. Where can they go? How can they follow along?
At Metal Bubble Trio on Instagram, metalbubbletrio.com. And that's the main channels, I would say. I'm not on X or whatever anymore. And just metalbubbletrio.com.
Amazing. All right. Big shout out to Brendan. And I want to talk about this last song, Disconnect. What's the story behind it?
This one, it's speaking of Instagram. It's about Instagram. It's about, I like to be friends with like, ex-partners. I have a few ex-partners that I'm close with. And it's important to me, I think, to share that kind of closeness. I don't know why, but it feels like, we are such a big part of each other's lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now, to keep tabs on like my ex as she's like having children and having a life and having something that I'm just no part of makes me feel a little funny. But I feel like it's also kind of, I was just having these kinds of thoughts. Like, what is the garbage in my own heart that is getting like seen and remembered and will live on once I'm gone? My Instagram is still probably going to be there. If I die, like nobody's going to delete it for me probably.
Yeah. I don't know how that works.
It's about like watching somebody through a screen, watching life unfold. And how do you unplug from that? Do you want to unplug from that? Are they watching you? Does it matter? I don't, just that's generally what it was about. Yeah. Shifting my perspective into a little bird.
Well, that's a big question about life and how we're all connected, and what it means to like truly walk away from someone is completely different these days. To be like, I'm not looking at their stories, I'm not following their tabs, and I'm excited.
It's hard to let go.
It's hard to let go. It's hard to let go because it's never been easier to be connected.
Sure, absolutely.
That's why we have this song. All right, congratulations! So great to sit down and chat with you. I can't wait to hear the whole album. Here we go. Disconnect live on Snacky Tunes here on HRN. We'll see you next week.
sharp point of view, I'd probably be a little bird who lives real close to you. You'd listen to my song and drop a piece of bread. You'd sing to me, I'd stare at you while tilting my whole head. I'd watch you fall in love and raise a family. I'd see it through a window like I see it through a screen. I know that I should fly as high as I can go, but I'd miss out on everything. It feels like I should know. The rotten stuff safely out of view, so I don't have to see it, but I get the sense you do. Sometimes I'll hear a song and wonder if your thoughts ever turn to me, and it just doesn't.
We talk about food, we talk about music, with musical dudes. Finger on the pulse, snacky tunes.
Snacky Tunes is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.